Directors of the Midpeninsula Regional Open Space District. I'm Craig Gleason, Vice President of the Board of Directors. This meeting is now called to order. It is 7:04 p.m. This meeting is being held in person at the district's administrative office and by teleconference. Members of the public can attend and participate in the meeting in person or via Zoom, and instructions for submitting public comments are available on the meeting agenda. Could you please call the roll?
Director Christine Tucker. Here. Director Ripple.
Here.
Vice President Gleason.
Here.
Director Holman.
Here.
Director Kishimoto.
Here.
Director McNiven.
Here.
Director Sear.
Hi, I am participating in the meeting via teleconference using the AB 2449 Just Cause exemption due to illness. Someone is in the same room with me over the age of 18, and I do not have a relationship with this person.
Thank you. First item is a report out of closed session. The board met in closed session this evening at 5 p.m. and also on August 20th at 5 p.m. and took no reportable action. Now's the time for oral communications. Do we have any comments from members of the public on matters within the jurisdiction of the district but not on the agenda?
Vice President Gleason, I do not have any.
Thank you. All right. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Christine Tucker.
Yes.
Director Ripple.
Yes.
Vice President Gleason.
Yes.
Director Holman.
Yes.
Director Kishimoto. Director McNiven. Yes. Director Sear.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Now we have special order of the day. Could we have the staff introduction, please?
Good evening, David Liefert, Senior Resource Management Specialist. It is my pleasure to introduce a new member of the Natural Resources Department, Jackie Vanderhout. Jackie joined us last month as our new Water Resources Specialist. Jackie has just relocated back to the Bay Area, where she was born and raised in San Francisco, from Minneapolis, St. Paul. And while there, she worked as an ecologist and project manager for Interfluve, which is a national river restoration and wetland science and engineering firm. Prior to that work, Jackie completed her master's in water resources management from Duke University, and she attended Evergreen State College in Washington, where she received her bachelor's in ecology. After her undergraduate work, Jackie worked in the Watershed Steward Program at the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board, as well as serving as Education and Outreach Director for the California Urban Streams Partnership during the Cordonices Creek Daylighting Project in Berkeley, which I am very happy to hear, and you earned extra points with me for, because that was the watershed that I grew up in. And we are very lucky to have Jackie with her experience and background in watershed management, aquatic habitat restoration, water quality monitoring, and biological assessment spanning consulting, nonprofit, and government sectors. So please join me in welcoming Jackie to the team. And if you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with you all and continuing the great experience I've had so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I actually visited Evergreen State College once, and having been there, I can totally understand how you ended up at Midpen. So welcome. All right. We had an informational memorandum on the Highway 35 multi-use trail crossing and parking area. Do any board members have questions or comments about this?
I do have one, if that's okay.
Please.
I think I know, and if I'm wrong, let me know, that I think they've changed the ingress and egress side of the parking lot. And I was wondering if that affects anything in any way. I'm just wondering if the trailhead is on one side, will people walk all the way across the parking lot to get to the Highway 35 crossing? Wouldn't it be easier to have the Highway 35? I don't know, it just seemed a little difficult.
Hi, Alex Harker, Capital Project Manager, Engineering and Construction. So the main driver of switching the ingress and egress was so that we could accommodate a shuttle loop with the radius that the shuttle needed for the turns, and also so that when the shuttle arrived at the trailhead, it would be letting people off, so that people would be walking out onto the sidewalk rather than letting people off on the opposite side of the vehicle into the roadway. That was the main driver. What was the follow-up?
I got all that.
Okay.
I got it, it was
Okay.
to let people onto the pavement side. I thought the shuttle drop-off was going to be closer now to the entrance.
Yes.
Why don't we have the Highway 35 crossing there? When they get off the shuttle, why, if they want to go to the crossing, why do they have to walk all the way through the parking lot?
Oh.
That was just a, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it mainly has to do with, we were focusing it around the original location of the
Yes.
trailhead.
It also might be traffic. I mean, I don't know if there's a line of sight at that gate.
Oh, so having the, okay, I think I understand
Yeah.
okay, so having the crossing further.
Having the crossing further south on the
Okay.
south entrance,
Yes, okay.
which is now the entrance to the
Yes.
parking lot.
Okay, yes. So the reason for that is because of the traffic engineering studies that were done. And exactly as you said, the line of sight in terms of safety. So with the visibility and also because of the elevation, the spot where the crossing is at currently, it's slightly more elevated. And so it increases the visibility of people crossing.
I wondered if that what it was. I'm sorry I took so long to.
Yeah, no.
to get there. Yeah.
I hope that
So it's for safety.
for safety. Yeah,
Mhm. Thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Any other comments or questions on that?
Just commented, I really appreciate the update. I thought it was very useful. Thank you.
All right, next item is the consent calendar. Do any board members wish to have any item pulled from the consent calendar or make any comment?
I don't need to have it pulled, I don't think, but I do have a question regarding agenda item 5. The district grant making program. Oh, good, Carol's here. My question had to do with putting my co-side hat on. Has any consideration been given, and maybe this wasn't the proper venue for this question to be answered, but I still want to ask it, whether you've taken a look at over the years or given some thought to making sure that co-side nonprofits are awarded grants with at the same rate as Bayside, that, there's some parity there. So I just have been wondering, how that tracks, whether, yes, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember the distribution of the grants and how many have been on COSIDE. I can say that has occurred. I think one thing that will help us this round, and we are preparing an RFP for release in September, hopefully. One thing we're doing is highlighting that ag-based environmental education programs are of interest to us.
Great.
Thank you so much for pointing us towards that, because we had very successful conversations with UC Elcus and HEAL project. Both of those helped us understand how their work, how their agricultural based work supports environmental education and environmental education outcomes. So we're hopeful that by pointing this out specifically, and then also changing the funding priorities such for the access, interpretation, and education, removing the requirement to have activities on Mid-Penn land, instead offering the alternative to have a lesson plan developed by Mid-Penn staff incorporated into their curriculum. So we hope that with these changes, we'll see more applications from the COSIDE.
Terrific. Yeah, I'm really happy. I was impressed with the recommendations that are contained here. I just wanted to maybe over time kind of understand how many grants are actually taking place on the coast, how many
Yeah.
projects are taking place on the coast and how many non-coastal, coastside nonprofits, including Ward 6 and 7, nonprofits are coming from those two wards. Just out of curiosity.
Yes, I'm happy to look that up. I would not take me too long to do so. I can provide it before the end of your meeting. I can give
Good,
it to
thank you.
Marie and just have you had that?
Okay, yep. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Is there any public comment on any?
I do not have any.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have a motion for adoption of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
I'm sorry, confirming that was Director Christine Tucker, who's second?
Second, yeah.
Thank you. Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
Vice President Gleason,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director Kishimoto, Director McNiven,
Yes.
and Director Seer.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. We have one board business item tonight, which is to amend the Midpeninsula Regional Open Space District's classification and compensation study. Could we have the staff presentation, please?
Stefan, as you're getting ready, I'll say a few things. So tonight, the board is being presented the recommendations for the new classification and compensation plan that adjusts the salary ranges based on market data for benchmark positions in alignment with the new compensation philosophy that the board adopted in January, and also the new list of 15 comparable agencies, which are all local to the Bay Area plus Santa Cruz County. And as the board knows, that compensation philosophy now targets our salaries at median plus 10%. And so tonight we have the results of a lot of work over the last number of months to present to you those recommendations for our classification and compensation plan. And I want to say that this action tonight that the board is considering is one of many that the board has taken and has been considering over time to help MidPen retain our employees and also attract new talent. So this is a recruitment and retention strategy for the organization that will help position MidPen very well in the many, many years to come. And there's been a number of different changes that the board has approved. That includes the compensation philosophy update that I mentioned, updating and revising the list of comparable agencies, also going through the last salary surveys that was done, and now tonight, the new classification and compensation plan. So a number of different actions have been taken already, and these have all incrementally helped the agency be positioned in a much better place for recruitment and retention. Another thing I want to mention too is all positions within MidPen, they are all very important to the mission. Whether you are processing invoices, whether you're conducting public outreach, whether you are preparing plans, administering construction contracts, whether you are hiring and onboarding staff, whether you are patrolling our lands and conducting medical aid, whether you are maintaining our facilities and our trails, whether you are providing interpretive programs, every single position has a purpose and every single position is valued for the mission and to be able to deliver the projects, the programs, the priorities for MidPen on behalf of the public and to support this region, to protect our environment and to provide a quality of life for the residents here. So with that, for us to be able to look at salaries and identify where to place those, we have to look at the comparable positions in these comparable agencies that are part of our list. And so we look at those and then we identify what those salaries are to then identify what those salaries should be for our positions here. And so that's how we go about it. Stefan will go through that. It's a very methodical process. It's a HR standard practice, industry practice, and it's one that we use here too. So I wanted to mention that because that's really important to understand. And it's part of the reason why we've looked at our salaries so carefully, and we've looked at them across the entire organization. So all the changes that we've been making throughout the organization. So I want to thank the board for allowing us to look at these salaries so carefully and for providing and bringing forth these recommendations for you all to consider. And so tonight, Stefan will walk you through all that.
All right. Good evening, Stefan Jaskelak, CFO. Thank you, Anna, for the introduction. Let me first kick off then with the general manager's recommendation, and that is to adopt a resolution amending the district's classification and compensation plan for compensation study adjustments based on the updated compensation philosophy. So I'll briefly walk you through the background. We'll look at what a compensation study is and how it played out here at Midpen. Then we'll look at how to implement proposed changes, and we will also look at the fiscal impact. So about 10 years ago, March of 2015, the board adopted the employee compensation guiding principles the first time around and established a philosophy that a competitive compensation was needed as a tool to attract and retain high-quality employees. However, more recently, recruitment and retention, we had turnover, so we were struggling with that, as well as the success of filling new positions was becoming difficult. And the number of qualified applicants was also not necessarily there per recruitment. So in the January of 2025, the board approved the revisions to the employee compensation guiding principles. The key elements of that updated policy is that when comparing to competitor agencies, we will use top range salary and define a competitive salary as median plus 10%. Previously, it was median. Also granting the general manager authority to adjust base wages for classification or classifications to allow for appropriate internal alignment between classifications, as long as those wages do not fall below median plus 10 of the comparator agencies. And later slide, I'll also further explain what internal alignment means. And furthermore, we eliminated the 60th percentile cap. It's needed because median plus 10 is above 60th percentile. And also the practice of Y-rating employees, which basically means you freeze their salary until the market is caught up. So we stepped away from that as well, so that employees will continue to receive their base wage adjustments and everything else. Additionally, in addition to the median plus 10%, the board also approved an update to the comparator agencies, 15 agencies that are all within the Bay Area counties plus Santa Cruz County. This is the list here. We removed comparators that are farther away, like Walnut Creek, Sacramento, Livermore, Riverside, and then added San Francisco, PUC, Parks and Rec, City of Mountain View, Palo Alto, San Jose, Santa Cruz, as well as East Bay Mud and Hayward Area Recreational District. So that basically means that those competitors farther away are dropped off, and we now have a suite of comparators. I like to say we're fishing in the same pond. We are recruiting from those areas that those competitors are also recruiting from. So it's more apples to apples for that. The compensation study is basically a process of looking at all the comparator agencies, looking at their compensation, their salaries, the benefits for same or similar classifications. And we do that to ensure that the district's compensation remains consistent with best practices, but also to confirm that our compensation is externally competitive to a comparable public sector labor market. Now, matches are not based upon job titles because sometimes they can be misleading or differently labeled, but rather we look at the analysis of the job description, the class descriptions for hours as well as the comparable matches. Now, for a match to be included, the classification, you have to have at least a 70% match in the duties of these tasks, of these classifications. And additionally, for it to be statistically valid, we need at least 4 comparator agencies with a match in order to do the calculation for the benchmark classification. And the reason for the 4 minimum is so that no one classification will have significant influence on the calculation. So you need a sizable sample, at least 4, for it to be valid. So our consultant Gallagher conducted compensation studies for 60 benchmark positions of the 95 classifications. The other 35 are derived from the benchmarks. This included classifications represented by the FEA and the POA, by the represented, but it excluded board appointees. They have their own process. Let me see. Oh, there we go. So of the 60 studied, 52 classifications were below the median plus 10%. 2 were above median plus 10. 3 classifications were insufficient data, so that means less than 4 matches. And then 3 were brand new, so we don't have existing compensation to compare to the market yet. And of those 54 with results, so that's the 52 plus the 2, the average was about 11.7 below median plus 10%. And that makes sense because we were originally aiming for median. Now we're at median plus 10, so that differential makes sense. Internal equity. So that means that between certain levels of classifications, that factor is to be considered when making these decisions. And that is within the same family of classifications. So that's a 1, 2, 3 senior manager, for example. So we put 10% between the entry and journey level positions and the leads, which is the 1, 2, 3 or lead positions. Then 15% if it's a higher level supervisory, multiple employees, or manages a discrete program that's like a senior or a supervisor classification. And then above that is 10 to 20% to the department manager. So those are the differentials for the internal alignment within the classification family. So range placement, the recommendations, 87 classifications of 92 because 3 were new. So basically 95% of all classifications, they're recommended for a range increase. That includes interns and seasonal classifications. 5 classifications would remain status quo, staying at the current range. And again, the average increase is 10.2%, which again statistically makes sense since we were originally at median, now we're at median plus 10. After ABC unanimously approved the recommended changes to the classification and compensation plan, and that meeting was held on July 8th, we received new data that could affect some of the original findings. So rather than coming to the board with that last month, we paused and we basically worked with the HR team, worked with the consultant to reevaluate and confirm the results of all classifications studied. We did a thorough scrub, also based on the new information. And then we also looked at the employee feedback that we received at ABC, and through July 18th, and we shared that with Gallagher for review as well. But through July 18th is we had to have a cutoff in order to include it, to digest it, and to come before you tonight. So the summary of the review post-ABC is that the Capital Project Manager 2 will move from range 36 to 39. Planner 2 is moving from 31 to 37. Resource Management Specialist 2 is going from 34 to 37. And then the Planning Manager is going from 51 to 57. 6 additional staff members also provided feedback on the classification studies. And based on the review, no changes have been made to the initial recommendations for these classifications. As part of the entire review process, as you'll remember, at least ABC committee members will remember, we did the classification study for planning department and engineering and construction. It started off with the PDQs, the position description questionnaires. Pretty darn quick always comes to mind, but okay. So that started, and those were reviewed by supervisors, by department managers, assistant general manager, and the general manager before handing them over to Gallagher for review and for comp study. Subsequent to that, there was a feedback loop. We received information back from planners and E&C. With that feedback loop, then we came to ABC. Additional feedback provided at the meeting. During the review or the re-review, that was also taken into consideration, discussed. There were meetings with staff members, with the planners and E&C, and also with Gallagher, looking through every single line item and comment, and to review that. And this is the result that came out of that. Now we're moving forward to implementation. So if a salary survey is at or above the new compensation philosophy target, then no equity adjustment is needed. Okay? We also won't wire rate. So active employees will then continue to be eligible for all pay practices like base wage adjustments, merit, longevity, etc. Now, if the result shows that they're below the target philosophy, the philosophy target, then the equity adjustment will be applied, such as moving from range 30 to 32, for example. And then employees will be placed in the step closest to, but not less than their current hourly rate. Because in higher ranges, the 2.5% step is typically larger, that means that they'll see a little bit of a bump right away. And then as time goes on, they'll be eligible for additional merit increases with each annual evaluation. So 87 classifications are recommended for a salary increase, and that's 225 employees. This is a graph showing the number of employees by percentage increase. The vast majority will receive 2 to 4% right away. A significant amount will also receive 4 to 6%. Then it kind of levels off, and then there's 31 that will receive more than 10% increase because of the way the ranges will be in a new schedule versus where they are today. If they're in a low step range of their current range and then jump all the way up, you'll see a larger increase. This slide, to me, is very telling. The orange columns are the current step where people are at, from 1 through 10, and you can see that a lot of people are at step 10, maxed out. The blue columns show where it's proposed to go. So there will be a lot more people in step 1 with a lot of room to grow, a lot of additional annual salary increases, in addition to the typical base wage adjustments to be determined. But that is part of the retention goal as well, is to provide people with growth, with annual growth in their salary. And it's interesting to note that of the 66 separations that occurred since 2019 through about 2024, the average year of service was 3 years. By implementing this, people have a lot more runway. They'll have 4 or 5 years runway, which should aid retention as well. The FEA and the POA were notified of these proposed changes early July, and they brought this to their members. And both groups have accepted the proposed compensation changes. And then upon board approval, we will execute a side letter with them. As far as the fiscal impact is concerned, the first year we're estimating at 1.2 million. The second year at 2.2, and then it levels off at about 3 million. For the 1.2 million this year, I would not recommend or would not ask for a budget adjustment just yet, because typically our annual salary savings exceeds 1.2 million. So I think we can absorb it in the current budget. And the controller also did not raise any concerns over the fiscal affordability and has included it in his 30-year model for the financial sustainability. So what are the next steps? Upon board approval of the updates to this classification compensation plan, HR is poised to inform individual employees via email of their specific range and step change. We will execute the side letters with the representatives, with FEA and POA. And then we will implement this, HR will implement this updates the first full pay period after board approval. So that means that the hourly rates would change effective September 1st, which will be seen in the first paycheck on September 19th. And that brings me back full circle to the general manager's recommendation, requesting the board to adopt a resolution amending the district's classification and compensation plan for compensation study adjustments on the updated compensation philosophy. I'll open it up to questions.
Questions?
Right.
Director.
Yeah, I have two, but first I want to commend Stefan that this is one of the first times that you've taken the podium and not everyone's left.
I know.
They are here, so
no,
you're working on it. They're great.
we broke the mold.
Back on slide 18, just first of all, I agree with you. That's a really interesting slide. Could you toggle back to that?
Mhm.
What's going on with the 5-year bump there in the new? You know, I can certainly understand year one, but that's interesting. I'm just curious what's going on there. Or is that anything we need to?
Well, if you're currently maxed out, but a lot of people are in step
Yeah.
10, for example, and there's a lot of movement, let's say it's 10% movement. That is 4 ranges. Each range is 2.5%.
Right,
so
right.
you drop from step 10, you drop back down.
Yeah.
You wind up at about 5 or 6. Yeah.
Okay. So I agree 100% with, hey, I think we've given people a lot more runway now. And, but I thought that at 5 years, there's more people there than I thought. So thanks for that explanation.
Yeah.
Got another question?
I have a question on this slide as well.
Sure.
So, you spoke about the separations
Mhm.
and being average 3-year experience. Was it?
Right. Yes.
Do you also track where those people were with respect to the salary headroom? And for example, would it look like the orange scale here, or is it something different?
Anecdotally, I would think it looks a lot like the orange scale, because with the current scale, we have to bring people in at much higher step rather than step 1. A lot of people come in at higher steps, and let's say you start at step 4, which, then in 3 years you're at step 10, you're maxed out. A lot of times we actually see more like step 6 of people coming in, so that after 2 years they're maxed out, and then,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. So actually, two questions. I'm responding to the number of communications that we received from staff, and most of them had something to do with, not sure that the job that I'm doing was fairly compared to the compensation or to the comparator. And I was just wondering whether either you or Rebecca or Candace could just remind us how that process works to make sure that the job we have and how that's compared to the job at a comparable agency.
You want to take that?
Good evening, Rebecca Wolf, HR Supervisor. So when Gallagher does their compensation study, they take a deep dive into the class spec or the job description for all the agencies. They look at budget, they look at org charts, reporting relationships, FTEs, and they just do a deep dive and look for that 70% likeness between the positions to make that match. And there are times when they can't make it one for one with a specific position, and those times are when the hybrid might be used. So our one position is captured across two positions at another agency, and the hybrid match is made. But they look at, duties, responsibilities, supervisory responsibilities, complexity, level of independence, decision making, all those factors to make that 70% match.
Okay. So that's assuming, Rebecca, then that we have accurate job descriptions and up-to-date job descriptions. And
Correct.
Have we recently gone through that? I know in some organizations I've moved in, it was a long time before we updated our job descriptions. So could you comment on that?
Yeah, so we recently did update the classifications for ENC and planning, and HR does endeavor when there is a job opening to, that's an opportunity to look at the class specification and say, is there something that we need to update, revise before we, go to recruit for the position. So we do periodically try to update that. But there are probably some that are maybe outdated and haven't looked at, doesn't mean they've changed, doesn't mean they haven't changed, but we might not have looked at them in a few years.
And so how would that work then, Rebecca? When we update the job description, then do we recompare? Is that?
You can. So when we do a classification study, we can look at the market at that time. If there are significant changes to the job description, it could also be put off if we're trying to stay cyclical with kind of like a district-wide look. We can make the classification updates and then kind of fold that into the next review of compensation. So you can do it either way.
Okay. Okay, great.
The other thing that I can mention, this is Henri's general manager. When we have a vacancy, I know Rebecca mentioned that we look at the job description. But for example, if we have a vacancy and we do a recruitment and we have an issue with the recruitment, it's a recruitment that we're having a hard time getting the pool of candidates, then we deep dive again into that job description and look at it again more carefully to determine whether there needs to be a change there, because that's another flag that's telling us something might be off. And so that then allows us to look into that particular classification again with a different lens.
Okay. One other, unless go to somebody else. I've got another one, but I'll be happy to defer.
Let's see. Well, of course, thank you everybody for your meticulous and hard work on all this. And I'm all for improving the both attraction and retention of employees. Of course, it's a paramount importance. So this is a huge step we're taking to do the medium at plus 10%. And so that's but that is a snapshot, right, about kind of where we are. And I guess my question is, have you heard what's happening in the larger market? I mean, what happens if everybody attracts, starts having the same policy of median plus 10%, or what are you hearing from the market?
That's a good question. The first thing to keep in mind is that we're a pretty small fish in the entire 15 comparators, right? We're not the smallest, but one of the smallest in the list. So we won't move the needle that much on our own. Additionally, a lot of cities and counties right now are either freezing or about to freeze their positions, hiring freezes, getting ready for cuts. So as far as that goes, I don't think they will be going to median plus 10 anytime soon, if they even were to think about that. They can't. Plus, I mean, everybody has their own way of placing themselves in the market. Some people want to be market leaders, some in the middle where we used to be, some would like to lag. That's their philosophy. But I don't see too many entities or too many comparators going this far up anytime soon. For us, it is needed because of our recruitment, right? And also the retention, because with retention, I mean, turnover is expensive, right? You have a vacancy, nothing, I mean, the work doesn't get done. You get somebody new in, you need to work them in depending on the position. It could be a month, could be a year, it all depends. Those are expensive in addition to the recruitment efforts themselves. So those are organizational expenses hidden in a certain sense, but they eventually do surface. And with this new philosophy, we'll be able to recruit better and retain better. Yeah.
Candace Basnight, HR manager. One of the things that was brought to my attention when we looked at the FOSM, one thing that you said was, is HR, are you going to be able to do the recruitment? Because a big rock, if you will, for us, our rock is recruitment. And I've been here since 2012, and ever since I've been here, the rock for HR has always been recruitment. One of the problems has been, and I can't emphasize enough, is when we go out for recruitment and we have to bring somebody in at step 10, it's not a good runway. It's not a good promise that that person will stay. And when we have this many people up at that step 10, there's no promise for, I mean, there are tools that we have and mechanisms like longevity pay, but that is only a small percentage as opposed to being able to continue to see your potential growth monetarily, and also to be competitive. We've lost people, certain positions, and I've said this before too, that are common around us in our pool, like say management analysts. I've had people that came to me in the HR department that, you know, I took a cut or because I wanted to be here. That only gets us so far because it is so, the expense of being here in this area is difficult. So in order for us to really be able to keep those folks and not have them jump to other places where they can do similar work, I'm so excited to be able to bring us to median plus 10, because I think based on the expertise, the last person that we brought up here, her credentials, I mean, we've been able to bring, even now, with the hint that this is going to happen, we're getting a better applicant pool for our positions. And like Anna is saying, if we go out for a position and we see that we're not being able to fill it, we come back and look at it and say, do we need to tweak it? Like with the farm maintenance worker, we go back and we really do try to closely look at the classifications and make sure that we are fishing with the right bait to get the right fish. Sorry, you guys aren't fish, but you know what I mean. We're trying to get the right people. So we have to be able to classify the positions correctly and pay them accordingly. And we've always said we have excellent staff, so let's pay us at an excellent rate. Just like Sifan said, you can lead or lag the market or be median. We're not median, we're not mediocre, we're above that. And I think this is your signal to us when you gave us the compensation philosophy to do this. And this is the tool that's going to be able to help us do that, lay the foundation for now and in the future, and train up people that are bright, curious, energetic, and can do the work that we need to do and fulfill the FOSM work that you
said, and get that big rock kicked out, because if we don't have the people, we can't do the work. So I feel very passionate about this, and I'm really happy and pleased that you all as a board have recognized this need. And I just really, a lot of people are waiting, have been coming up to HR, what does this mean for me? And we're ready to make this happen. And we're all already seeing it in our recruitments, just the hint of this, so.
And just to add and help answer further your question, Director Kishimoto, Santa Clara County is one of the largest public sector employers here in the region. They are facing some major issues with revenues. I don't see them doing anything like this anytime soon. In fact, a good portion of the revenues come in through federal sources from Medicaid, and that's being severely cut. I don't know if you heard, but they're putting a ballot measure just to be able to recoup a portion of what they're losing. So I see severe revenue concerns there for them. And so certainly with them, I don't see them doing anything like this.
Question for Candace?
Oh, I was going to add real
Okay, go
quick,
ahead, sorry.
our retention rate or turnover rate was below 10%, which is not bad. Right now, it's a little bit below 5%, in large part also in anticipation of tonight with the new compensation philosophy. Go ahead.
So the question for you, and one thing that doesn't get brought up very much, but I appreciate the direction this is going. And so as we improve the retention rate, we also save money, because just can you say, like, on average, like what it costs to recruit, bring on board, and train a new employee? And I know it varies by position, but it's a savings.
Is it 2.5 times the salary of, so my data person, Rebecca, is telling me, but we know that it's like 2.5 times the annual salary of a person to bring up the turnover rate, the cost. So yes, it is a savings to have the talent, grow the talent, but also get smart talent. I mean, to
Right,
get
sure.
qualified. And we're getting richer pools, more qualified people, you know, that can kind of hit the ground running and be faster, you know, to help, you know, get in with the rest of the herd and get the work done. So it is, in some ways, it helps us to have more of a choice to choose top talent with this. Does that answer your question?
It does, and the 2.5 times annual salary was like the punchline I was getting at, but the rest of it is just added information. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice President Sear, I do have Director Sear with his hand raised.
Okay. President Sear, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. I was going to raise my hand. I was going to ask if Anna could speak into the microphone a little more closely. It's difficult to hear, but the rest of you, I'm hearing fine. Whale of a lot of work has gone into this at this point. I'm really impressed.
Yes, thank you. I too am really excited about what we're doing tonight, and appreciate all of the work that's gone into this and all of the passion that's come from our staff and the work that we've all been doing to try to get this, to right size this. My question is, to what degree do we think that this will keep us competitive? Like, for how long? So in other words, do we have any sense of how long this philosophy of median plus 10% will keep us ahead? Do we think that, I mean, I'm not saying this very well, but I'm wondering whether the job market is increasing in a way, you know, that salaries are increasing in a way in this region that mean that, you know, in 5 years, we're gonna have to relook at this again, or maybe not.
Well, the goal is to look at it periodically regardless, right? To do the compensation studies. We do them for the representatives for FEA and POA whenever we go to the table. And the goal is to do it also for the office supervisory management personnel with about the same cadence. If one of our comparators changes their compensation philosophy up or down, the median then also changes up or down accordingly. And our median plus 10 will move with that as well. So either way, we're anchored in a way that statistically we will move up and down with the median, if that makes sense.
Yep, thank you for the statistics refresher. Appreciate it. Thank you. It does make sense.
Director McNevin.
Okay. I just couldn't help but, couldn't help but notice that there are 225 employees now. Is that what I saw? And because it was 200 just a little bit ago. Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you.
Director Riffle.
I always want to make sure that, do you have the opportunity, Craig, because you always go to last, since I've already asked a bunch of questions. Okay. So I'm also reflecting a little bit on, again, the comments that we've received, that there's not only the question about comparing with outside agencies, but there's also a question about comparing within, from function to function. And that's hard. And I was just wondering if, I reflect on Anna's opening comments that every job we have is important. And so we want to make sure that, every one of those is valued, but then we have to also make sure that those are, there's a equitable or fair pay, for the work done. And so I don't know if this is a Candace question or Stefan question, or maybe even Anna, of how do we make sure that we're leveling correctly between departments and between jobs? I mean, that's hard to do. Is that just evolve over time, or what's the process there to make sure that we have the right comparison between jobs within the organization?
You're right, well, so the way the compensation studies work for the best practice is you take a classification.
Yeah.
You find the comparators, the matches, at least 70% out in the market, and you run your calculations based off that. So that's basically looking at the labor market. What is this particular classification?
Right.
How does it fare in the market? How does it fare with our competitors? How
Right.
does it fare with us?
Right.
And how do we adjust that? And each classification is unique.
Right.
Everybody has different responsibilities, different tasks, different components.
Right.
It could be administrative support. It could be construction. It could be maintenance. I mean, every classification has their own requirements. And we take those requirements and compare them to market. So it's more of a force of market,
right,
labor market, rather than internal looking from department to department across, because then you don't take into consideration the unique requirements of each classification.
Right. So okay, so basically you're saying we are driven, if you will, by the kind of the comparator organizations. We're driven by the market.
Right.
And
per classification.
Okay.
And just,
right.
and about that labor market, it's that labor market, when there is a vacancy, for example,
Right.
It's that labor market that we're drawing from.
Right.
And it's dependent on what that classification is, right? And so, similarly, our positions who might jump for a lateral move that maybe pays more, again, it's that labor market that they're looking at. That's pertinent to that classification. So that's what's driving the analysis, is what is the labor market for each position? Where is it? Because that's where we're drawing people. That's how we're retaining people in those
Right.
positions.
Right.
That's what we need to look at.
Right. So that kind of goes back to Zoe's question about, we have to make sure that we are competitive and we're staying on top of this.
Right.
Because otherwise the whole system starts to break down. Yeah. All right.
But I also want to reemphasize that when we do the classification studies, the due diligence that we take to do the position description questionnaire, each person in the seats fill those positions out and give their uncut feedback. And then their supervisor gives their feedback, and then the manager, then this AGM or CFO, and then gives the feedback. The feedback is not scrubbed; it's raw. Nobody adjusted, nobody tweaked anyone's feedback. It went to the consultant. The consultant looked at that. So we're trying to and then there were interviews with people to try to okay, talk to us about that. So I think two things. One, obviously, everything is labor market driven. But then if we continuously, like Stefan says, are doing periodic checks of the labor market, and then as we know our positions are evolving, then we're checking that as well, realizing that other agencies, their positions are evolving too. Some of the same headaches that we're finding that we're dealing with, say for instance, the changes in how we interact with the public and, more high touch, things like that. Other agencies are experiencing those same things too. So as long as we're keeping, doing our due diligence to check on how our classifications are evolving, and then the proof is in the pudding. Are we able to attract that right talent that has the education, the background, the knowledge, skills to do these jobs? And are we able to keep folks? So if we're not seeing a whole lot of turnover in various departments after a while, then we say, okay, this is stabilizing out. We're hitting the mark here. If we're finding that, people are leaving this department, we can't keep people on these seats, then that's a cue. So there's certain cues that we look at that will help us know, hey, we need to do some more checking under the hood. So some of it is the feedback from the staff, some of it is, but primarily, what is it saying? What is our market? And that's kind of the primary driver, but then we look at the other cues, and the periodic looks will help us stay where we need to be. Does that help? Okay.
I guess it makes me think, we're in a larger market, of course, but on the other hand, we also take pride in having our unique aspects as well, right? And we try to be collaborative, and we have kind of our own unique workforces and such. So how do you weigh that against kind of a more standard market? And I appreciate what you just said about the changing market, because it's
well, then that's when we look at other things like organizational development. That's when we look at, you're talking about how we do what we do. One of the things that keeps people here is because they love the staff. When people leave, I think I've told you this several times, I don't want, and I've had people say, there's another opportunity over here, but I love the staff here. The staff are great. And because of who we are and who we pick, how we do what we do. And I think we're doing things with our organizational development, engagement, a lot of things. We're doing things also, we're planning to do things around career development, helping people to see opportunities so they can grow and be in the right positions. We've talked about career ladders. We've talked about a lot of things that we want to do to help our workforce stay engaged, and the benefits that we brought on too, other things to look at mental health issues that people experience so they don't get burnt out. A lot of things that we do, the other benefits that of being with people that we choose, and also the other things that we bring on, with some of them are monetary, but some are the intrinsic, of working in a mission-driven organization that draws a certain people too. So it's kind of who we are, kind of helps us get the right people and keep the right people, if you will. And when I say right, the people that fit and are going to thrive here. Does that?
I guess, yeah. I'm just kind of thinking, there's a lot of things which, if we do things in a unique way, that might not translate to those lines in the job description. You know what I mean?
I guess the way
go ahead.
the way I would answer that, Director Kishimoto, is every agency has its own unique culture or a sense, if you will. Certainly for MidPen, because of our very specialized mission. However, there are core functions that these positions carry that translate, right, between different agencies. It's not the exact same audience, and it's not the exact same issues you're tackling, but so similar core functions and skill sets and qualifications that are necessary to do that type of work. And so that's how
It's that 70% that.
yes,
You're
it's,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I should let you answer it.
I was thinking that, like Valley Water has a lot of many technical positions. I mean, they're highly technical, and MidPen may be evolving to that because whether it's natural resources or planning and construction and such that it's just we're just becoming, as you said, all the projects are becoming more complex, and so I mean I think yeah, I think that's definitely the direction we seem to be going in. It's kind of more like Valley Water, I suppose, in some ways. Is that so?
I mean, it could be. I do know that. I mean, the level of complexity. Everyone is dealing with that because the level of complexity of the regulatory process, whether it's your local regulatory process or the state or federal, if those come into play, that's getting more complex. Public engagement and the sentiment that public agencies are working with these days has changed dramatically compared to what it was like 15, 20 years ago. So there, it's I think we're all seeing changes in different ways.
Plus, there are other market factors like, okay, boomers are like, there's like none. I mean, there are only a few of us. Like, I was joking with staff. There's like used to be boomers, now there's just boom because there's no. If you look at our demographics, it's changed a lot, and now it's a lot of leadership. And you're finding that with cities, some positions are harder to fill, like the city managers or, so it's just things that are happening outside. When we do the scan, the environmental scan, those things impact as well. So. But that's why if we continuously looking at our classifications, seeing how our impact in the market, seeing what the recruitment and retention looks like, and we're checking that every year, we're checking it as we go, then we try to keep our hand on the pulse of that and adjust. That's all we can do is adjust as we see things happen. We all do. They're all complex. They're all important. So.
Any more questions? I do have one question. So in this discussion, there was a lot of talk about the project cycle and what part of the project cycle are different positions managing. And I'm wondering in comparing across the agencies and municipalities and so forth, the comparators, is there a difference there in the complexity, the sort of the typical complexity of projects? Because I look at things like Highway 17 or Hawthorne's. There seems to be a huge complexity in some of our projects. And I'm wondering, is that figured into?
Yeah. Really, it depends on the agency too. Some of our comparable agencies, for example, include San Francisco, City and County of San Francisco, which has very complex projects. Valley Water, which also carries some very complex projects, East Bay Regional Park District, similar. So, our comparable agencies include a high level of complexity there too. And then some of the cities there, some of their public works projects can be pretty complex too, or their public engagement processes and planning processes can be very complex too. So it varies from agency to agency and then also from project to project.
Do we have public comment?
I do not have any.
Okay, board deliberation and comments,
I actually had one more question, if I might.
please go ahead.
I know we received some other questions regarding classification studies. And I'm just wondering how we'll be handling that. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that? I know that there are some other areas of the organization that would like to get in line, for this too. And can you talk to us about that?
Right, we have gotten a few other requests. I can tell you, we are looking at all the requests. There's only so much capacity our HR can provide, but we will be plugging away. We have another department in line already. They've been in line for quite a while, so we're going to be moving forward with them first. That's the IST department. And we're going to be fitting them as we can with capacity because there's a number of other big priority projects that Rebecca and Candace are managing, including we're trying to wrap this one up as much as we can. Certainly tonight's meeting is a huge step because we have career ladders also kind of waiting in the wings. So there is a lot of work on their plates, but we will be fitting them in as capacity allows.
Excellent. I was wondering if you have a way of prioritizing who goes, aside from IST. I think we've heard from Natural Resources. I think we've heard from Governmental Affairs. And so how do you prioritize?
Yeah, it's first of all, whether there's a particular question, issue that we're seeing there that we need to dig in further to understand and determine if there needs to be a change. There's also just simply desires to review positions, and so we're looking at those also. But do we see a more urgent, immediate need? And those are kind of bubbling up to the top first. That's not to say that we're not going to look at the other requests. It's just we do need to prioritize to a certain level, and then, like I said, also kind of fit these in as the capacity allows, because we do have a number of projects that are occurring simultaneously. So, yeah.
And then do we communicate that prioritization or, with staff? How do we keep staff apprised of, how that's unfolding over time?
Do you want to take that one?
Certainly after we talk and analyze and decide kind of what goes first, we're talking to the department managers and we're getting back to staff. I mean, we tried it with each person that's given us any kind of feedback. We've tried to be very responsive and say, this is, we've heard you, we're going to get back to you. And basically we're talking with the department managers as well, where we are and letting them know. I think that's kind of the key thing. We're trying to give them updates. And then also in our all staff meetings, we're talking about where we are and what we're doing again and again and again. So yeah, I really think we're trying to, and I know one of the things that we've been trying to do just across the board is be more transparent. So, and because some of the feedback we've gotten organizationally is that we need to hear more from, what are we doing? So we've tried to communicate, and sometimes people are saying, okay, stop, but via emails or, just responding to people directly and through all the various conduits we have for communication.
Great, thank you.
Board comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if people remember Mary Davy, but Mary Davy would begin every board meeting or in multiple times and say, "World's greatest staff." And I always used to kind of cringe at that every once in a while. Thinking, Mary, are you serious? And Mary was serious. And the more I've worked here, the longer I've worked here or been here involved with this organization, the more Mary's words just kind of sink in, is the world's greatest staff. In order, though, I think to have the world's greatest staff, I agree 100% with what Candace said, is you have to attract them and you have to pay them and you have to surround them with benefits, with culture, with good management, with good leadership, hopefully, and so on. So So I think what we're doing tonight, I'm going to vote yes for this. I think a lot of work's gone into this. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it's probably the best I think that we're going to do, and I think it's the right step going forward. You know, we'll continue to tweak probably as we go, but I'm good with where it is right now. And you know, I reflect a little bit on comments up here. We've got to keep this thing fresh, and it's not just pay; it's everything else that we do. And so, so I think as much as we want you all, staff, to work hard, I think we need to work just as hard to make you make you feel that, yeah, these guys value us and we want to do our best. So it's really in that spirit that I'm going to vote yes, that this is, I think, a very, very important step to that end. So
I'm going to have a stab. When I walked into the room this evening, I was like, why are these people here? And sitting here, I've started to recognize you all, and I'm really sorry it took me a few minutes to see you. And so, welcome. And let's see, I have been working with staff a lot on my various committees, especially the planners. And I've read a lot of the comments that have been coming in over the months from mostly the planners, but other departments too. And at first I thought, oh, what's going on? And now I kind of understand it. And I want to say, I have the utmost respect for all this planning. Well, I'm talking planning, but it does extend a little further into the staff. I have the utmost respect for the way you work, the way you keep things together, the way you communicate. It's a real pleasure to work with you all. So I wasn't sure if there was some dissatisfaction in those comment letters. I think maybe the title of your job was getting in the way. I want you all to get this raise. I think it's going to really help your lives and us and everybody. And I was thinking, what can I say to make them feel better, that they are respected? And I realized that it's a little embarrassing, but in Romeo and Juliet, it's Juliet who says, a rose by any other name will still smell as sweet. So your title, it may be important to you, but it's not a huge deal. So thank you for listening to me. And I'm so proud of the staff, the human resources staff, for doing all this work. What a lot of work. I did my own little AI search on comparators. It's not easy. I gave up. I got a headache. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, staff. Thank you for not commenting tonight. Really sweet. And so, like Kurt, I'm going to approve this recommendation. Did you make a motion?
Yes, I also see the huge attention to both the big picture and all the details. And the big picture that we can't lose sight of is this, 10% raise, basically, that we're giving the organization. And I hope everyone, I think it's something that we think you deserve it, that we hope that you stay a long time, and that you enjoy working with each other, and as much as we the board enjoy working with you. So I think that's the big picture, and I appreciate Candace and Anna and everyone just kind of really, because I know the details are so important as well, and as others have said, I think things will continue to change as well. So I will also support the motion tonight.
Yes, I will certainly be supporting the recommendation, and along with acknowledging the yeoman's amount of research and work that staff has done that this staff has done to come up with this recommendation. I also appreciate the staff who's here who are going to benefit from these recommendations. And with that, it sort of goes along with what Kurt said earlier, is that it's not just the compensation, it's not just the salary, it's not just the benefits, it's also, the management and the support that you get in order to do your job. And that we all kind of, in acknowledging this and moving forward with this, which I fully support, I think it's also appropriate to also just remind us all that we are public servants and stewards of the land and stewards of those that live on the land, two-legged, four-legged, crawly, whatever. And so with that in mind, I'm glad to be able to support an endeavor that compensates you for that stewardship and public service.
Yes, I think I mentioned this before several times, that when I look at issues like this, I always look at it through a variety of lenses. And I'm so incredibly excited when I look at this agency, this district, with the biggest lens, that we're going to be moving forward starting September 1st with a really extraordinary move forward for you all in terms of compensation. So that makes me really excited. I'm really happy, and I acknowledge all the work that's been done agency-wide for that to happen. I also look at it as a smaller lens, and I look at it through the lens of the planners who've done a lot of work and have really made a lot of great points, and I understand where they're coming from. But I also appreciate the fact that staff has taken a very careful look at what has been provided, and it is really important for us to stay competitive and appropriately placed in the labor market. And I trust that that's what our HR department has done with this compensation study and with where we're going tonight. So I am very much in support of it, but to either the large lens or the small lens, I think, as my colleagues have said, you are truly appreciated for the unique work that you do and for keeping this district vibrant and ready to face the future. So, yes.
President Seer, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just to echo everything that's already been said, I'm really impressed with the thoroughness of this task coming now to a point where we can vote on it. It's an incredibly complex situation. I mean, it's sort of comparing apples and oranges and finding out which fruit kind of fits in between. So I think this has been a real eye-opener for me. And I was also going to comment, the letters that we received were so thoroughly thought through as another impressive effort by a whole lot of staff people. It wasn't just let's just throw darts at the wall and see what happens. Very carefully thought through, and I very heartily support it.
Thank you. So I think I'm in a similar place. I will support the general manager's recommendation. There is this one part of it that people have talked about that does pain me. But I think overall there's a lot of good change here that will put us in a better place for recruiting and retention. And I think lots and lots of good work has gone into it. And I want to particularly call out all of the staff who came to us with comments. I think that the information that you've brought has really helped this process, and changes have been made. Now, not every suggestion has been followed, certainly, and I think in some of these cases, there was a very difficult decision to make. For example, with the information that came from the planners, I think there were well thought out arguments on both sides of that topic, and Anna and the HR department were put in a position where they needed to make a decision on that. And I think we've decided to follow what we think the market is telling us. I hope that people will see that changes did come out of this as a sign that it's great that you're coming forward and speaking. And I think that will improve things for everybody in the future. And so with respect to the planners in particular, I feel like you have a tremendous impact on the quality of the open space experience that we give to people. And that is tremendously important to me. So I'm hoping that on this topic, we can at least keep this on the radar in the future. I know we have other classification studies that need to be done. But I think really good information was brought forward, and I hope we can build on that in the future and make sure that we're in the right place as we go along. So I definitely appreciate people coming forward with all your comments and all the work that you do. Thank you. All right.
With that, I would like to move the general manager's recommendation.
Roll call vote.
I would like to second it.
President Seer, second. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
Vice President Gleason,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director McNiven,
Yes.
President Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board for their support, ongoing support, and continued support in the future as well with new topics. Thank you.
All right. We're on to informational reports. Do we have committee reports?
Yes. The Planning and Natural Resources Committee met yesterday, and we considered, and the Planning and Natural Resources Committee is comprised of Director Kishimoto and Director Ripple. We met on the coast side and had a great presentation on the proposed Parisima Creek Redwoods Comprehensive Use and Management Plan. It was well attended by coastsiders, and lots of good feedback came up, and we look forward to bringing this to the full board soon.
Oh, I guess I could comment on the Hawthorne Historic. Anybody? Might as well jump in. My colleagues can Margaret and Karen can chime in. Yeah. So this meeting was really just to kind of come up to speed, bring up to speed where staff is with the town of Portola Valley and, the potential funders that we have just kind of on the latest. And so this is a very, let's put it this way, it's a very dynamic situation that we're trying to navigate. So I appreciate staff's hard work on this and the committee. I think we're staying on top of it the best we can, and fingers crossed.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
This is Anna Ruiz, General Manager. Just a couple of things. We did hold a Ranger badge ceremony on the 13th. And we had two relatively new Rangers badged, and we had their families and friends here in attendance, along with a lot of staff to celebrate their accomplishments and making it through the whole academy and training process to be fully badged Rangers. Also, tomorrow, Director McNiven, Director Christine Tucker, and myself are going to be heading out to the Farm Bureau to have a meeting, a discussion about various topics of concern that they have, but also interests for how to reimagine our partnership moving forward. And so we're being optimistic that we'll have a good discussion tomorrow with them.
All right, director reports. Anyone? Zoe?
Let's see. Yes. So last Friday, our general manager and I met with Supervisor Mueller and had a good meeting as well. Felt like we established some common ground, spoke to him about the basic policy updates and moved in a positive direction. So that was really nice and was happy to do that and glad we were able to make time for that. And then I just want to remind everybody that next Thursday is the trail naming for Lenny Roberts at Johnston Ranch. And it's going to be really amazing. It's going to be a great event and hopefully the weather will be good, but bring a jacket.
And I'm going to be bringing Larry Hassett.
Oh, you're going to bring Larry. Okay, great. It's going to be well attended and we're going to have lots of cake. So be ready.
Great.
That's all from me.
Can I go?
Thank you.
Sure. So kind of jumping way back, I had a chance to attend the Heidelberg Materials public information session put on by Supervisor Abe Koga, and Brian and other members of our staff were there. So interesting to see that process continue. On the 4th of August, I had a chance to join again Brian Malone and Josh Hugg to take Congressman Liccardo's legislative director out to Rancho San Antonio, and it was her first time to California, which is pretty incredible. But I think she was impressed with what we do. I also had the chance, and again, thank you, Josh, for letting me join you for briefings for let's see, Senator Becker, Assemblymember Berman, and State Senator Cortese over the last, month or so on some items of our interest. And I'm just impressed, especially Senator Cortese this afternoon, that these guys are paying attention with what we're doing and very, very supportive. So thank you, Josh, for all of your work and also for allowing me to participate. On the 7th of August, I had a chance to help staff with the tour of the Hawthorne's historic area with Mary Hufty, one of the council members, and then their new planning director, Darcy Smith. And again, thank you, staff, for helping make that all happen. And then on a much lighter note, yesterday, my wife and I hiked from Roos Ridge up to the top of Black Mountain. And for anybody that's hiked up there, the last third of a mile is kind of a wall. And just as we were getting to that, there were two, I think it was a mother and a kit, a gray fox, were sitting right on the trail, and they were healthy and happy, and they could care less whether we were there or not. They were just kind of running around, and that just kind of made me think, this is why we do what we do. I think we had some happy critters out there. So thank you all.
Okay.
We already reported on the, didn't we already report, Margaret, on the on the Menlo Park? Has it been that long? Well, thanks to Josh Hugg, Margaret and I made a presentation, our kind of annual circuit that we do, made a presentation to the Menlo Park City Council, and also distributed the very popular brochures that we have in the lobby, and I need to get some more because I'm out now again. But they seem to be grateful for those, and so thank you to my colleague Margaret for also coming.
Okay, well, I think I reported on the Los Altos Hills presentation, right? I mean, that was also a long time ago. And let's see, I went to the Abecoga presentation, the cement Lehigh one as well. And then August 21st, I went to the BCDC meeting. That's where we talked about the Hayward Marsh project. I think I passed it on to our staff as an example of that, which is fairly similar to the Stevens Creek restoration we're thinking of doing. And so that might be it.
Return. I also went to the badge ceremony, which it's such a good event to go to, and the cake is delicious. and the Menlo Park presentation with Director Holman and Josh. And then I did go on the 16th to the Pescadero Art Festival and tabled there. Oh, it was, I just have to say this one more time, that when I arrived and I was looking for the booth, there was one booth with a crowd in front of it, and it was our booth. Eleanor did a wonderful job of organizing that booth. It was fun to be there. And then yesterday I went to Tomcat Ranch. They had a sustainable grazing little conference, I guess. And it was just interesting to see how they do their cows, but it was more interesting to see how they manage their goats from mountain lions. So it is possible.
And maybe I'll jump in. I don't have anything that I can report on that, but I am currently in rehab, and I'm sorry to have missed so many key items and events over the last week or two. Hopefully I'll be home soon and then can get back in the saddle. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for your patience, and I'm glad to have been able to join this meeting this evening.
Thank you. I think you went above and beyond for joining tonight too.
Yeah, get better soon.
I was going to mention one other thing since you were talking about farming, and it's not directly related to Mid-Penn, but yet some of you know I'm on the Anderson Valley Land Trust Board as well. We're planning a future of farming kind of workshop. So I'm thinking of farming it everywhere.
All right. I also attended the Ranger badging, which, as Margaret said, was a great ceremony. And then I had a very busy, long weekend. We had Spotlight Stewardship on Friday. We visited Rocks Ranch, which is a land trust of Santa Cruz County property, actually not in Santa Cruz County. And then the Bolsa Fish Passage Project. And then on Saturday, we had a trail project at the Redwood Trail at Purisma Creek, which is an easy access trail, but over time it had degraded to the point where it wasn't particularly easy access. And Judd Valino and his now loyal crew of volunteers worked on this and made a lot of progress on it. I think there's probably one more day to get it completely in shape, but it'll be a really nice addition or complement to the ADA barrier removal projects that many of our staff have been working on. And then on Sunday, with some friends, I rode my bike up Montebello Road and visited the Water Wheel Creek Trail, which was the site of the recent fire. So that was very interesting to see, and I really appreciate all the work of the staff to identify the fire and then to contain that. So that's all for me.
Vice President Gleason, if I can just pass this down, is from Carol. She is responding back to Director Christine Tucker's question regarding the grants.
All right, thank you. And we are adjourned.